She saved for 22 years. She packed her bags weeks before the trip. She laid her passport on top of her neatly folded clothes, like it was the most precious thing she had ever touched. And on her 79th birthday, she sat completely alone at a table she had set for 8 people, with birthday candles melted all the way down into the frosting, and a gallon of ice cream slowly turning to liquid on the tablecloth, waiting for a family that simply never showed up. But that is not even the worst part. The worst part is what her own son was quietly planning behind her back, and what she had already done about it, 14 months before any of them made their move. This is not a story about a family falling apart. This is a story about one woman who saw it coming, and one granddaughter who made sure her voice was never silenced. Stay with me, because this ending, they never saw coming. If you have ever watched someone you love be treated like they no longer matter, like their memories, their home, their whole life could just be folded up and handed away, then this story was made for you. Hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss a story like this one. And please leave a like before we go any further. It takes 2 seconds and it genuinely helps more than you know. Now let's go back to the beginning. My name is Nora Caldwell. I am 32 years old. I work as a paralegal at a small 4-person elder law firm in Hartford, Connecticut. My entire job is reading documents that other people overlook. Wills, trusts, guardianship filings. The kind of paperwork that sits in a drawer for years until suddenly it becomes the most important thing in the world. My family has always called me the paperwork one. My mother Diane would tilt her head at holiday dinners and say, "Nora is still doing her little legal assistant thing." The way you would describe someone selling handmade jewelry at a craft fair. Like it was a hobby I had not grown out of yet. I never argued. I just kept reading. My grandmother's name is Lorraine Caldwell, 7 to 9 years old. Sharp and stubborn and quietly funny in that dry way that sneaks up on you when you least expect it. She was the kind of woman who grew hydrangeas along her front walk and pressed the dried ones into vases when the season ended. The kind of woman who ironed her napkins, who baked her own birthday cake every single year, who signed her name with a fountain pen and a capital L that had a long, looping, confident tail. She raised my father Gregory alone after losing her husband young. She put him through college. She paid for his first suit. She danced at his wedding. She refinished her own kitchen cabinets by hand. She co-signed my first apartment lease when my own parents said no. She was the person I called when the world felt like too much. Her house on Oakwood Lane was not just a house. It was the place where she taught me to read a lease at the kitchen table when I was 19 years old. Where she sat with me through every hard thing I ever faced. Where a glass prism hung above the kitchen sink and threw small rainbows across the floor every single morning. Where I had traced the same ceiling crack in the guest room since I was 6 years old. It smelled like vanilla cake and old maple wood and something impossible to describe but impossible to forget. Now let me tell you about the rest of the family. My father Gregory spent his career managing regional insurance accounts until he could golf 3 times a week and call it consulting. My mother Diane chaired charity galas and sat on the library board and posted selfies to the church group chat with the word blessed underneath them. My brother Aaron ran a small property development company, Aaron Caldwell Properties. He drove a German sedan that cost more than my entire annual salary. He entered every room like the room should feel lucky he had arrived. And then there was me, the paralegal. $4,000 to $7,000 a year. Studying for the bar exam at night. Reading fine print that nobody else wanted to read. I was not the impressive one. But I was the one Lorraine trusted. And 14 months before everything fell apart, she made sure that trust was written down, notarized, witnessed, and recorded with the town clerk. She had seen it coming before any of us had even noticed the storm. It started with a birthday that broke my heart before I even walked through the door. Lorraine turned 7 to 9 on a Saturday in October. She had baked her own cake. Vanilla with buttercream roses, her specialty for as long as I could remember. She had set the table for 8 people. The good plates. Paper napkins folded at each place. A centerpiece of dried hydrangeas she had arranged that very morning. 8 chairs pulled out. 8 place settings laid with care. She had been preparing for days. My parents were skiing in Aspen. My brother Aaron sent a text at 4:15 in the afternoon. Happy bday Gran. Skiing is amazing. My father sent nothing. My mother posted a photo of herself in ski goggles to the church group chat with the word blessed. I found out at 5 o'clock when I called to wish her happy birthday and heard something in her voice I had never heard before. A quietness that was not peace. It was the sound of a person trying very hard not to let you know they are sitting alone. I left Hartford immediately. Still in my work flats. I stopped at a gas station and bought a bouquet of flowers because it was all I had time for. 3 hours on the highway and then the back roads through Briarwood where the oak trees arch over the pavement like a cathedral ceiling in autumn. I pulled into her gravel driveway at 8:12 at night. The porch light was on. Every other window was dark. Inside, the kitchen table told the whole story without a single word. 8 place settings. The good plates. The dried hydrangea centerpiece. The vanilla birthday cake in the middle of the table with 7 to 9 spelled out in pink gel and the candles burned all the way down to waxy nubs stuck in the frosting. A gallon of Neapolitan ice cream had completely melted through its carton and soaked into the tablecloth. She was sitting at the head of the table in her lavender cardigan. Hands folded around a glass of water. Alone. She looked up when I walked in and smiled. Then frowned a little. "Is it Tuesday?" she asked. "It is Saturday, Gran. Your birthday." "Oh." She touched the edge of the cake. "I thought I was making this for the church bake sale." I set the flowers in a mason jar. I cut her a slice. We ate cake with our hands because neither of us felt like washing forks. I sang happy birthday and she asked me to start over halfway through because she wanted to hear the whole thing from the beginning. So I sang it twice. At 10 o'clock I helped her to bed. She weighed almost nothing. Her wrist was as thin as a paper towel roll. As I pulled the quilt up to her chin, she grabbed my hand. Her eyes went completely sharp for just a moment. Clear. Focused. Like a radio catching a signal through static. "They think I don't notice," she whispered. I waited for her to say more. She was already asleep. I stayed the night. And in the morning, while I was cleaning the kitchen and she was dozing in her recliner, I found something on the hallway shelf behind a framed family photo. A business card. Brenda Voss. Voss and Dean Realty. And on the back in handwriting I did not recognize. Comp value $680,000. Quick close possible. My hands were steady when I put it back. My stomach was not. The next morning 2 strangers knocked on the front door. A woman around 60. Silver hair. Wool coat. Leather briefcase. Professional and precise. A younger man beside her carrying a notary seal in a zippered pouch. "Nora Caldwell?" the woman asked. "Yes. My name is Ruth Adler. This is my colleague Nathan. Your grandmother retained my firm 14 months ago." She held out a manila folder. Thick. Sealed. My grandmother's name printed on the tab in blue ink. Her signature written across the seal in that long looping hand I would recognize anywhere. "She asked us to deliver this to you personally," Ruth said. "When the time came." "When the time came for what?" I asked. Ruth glanced through the screen door at the recliner where Lorraine sat sleeping. Her expression softened just slightly. "Come to my office when you are ready," she said. "And please do not discuss this with your parents before we speak." They were in their car and pulling away before I could find a second question. I stood on the porch holding the folder. It was heavier than it looked. Maybe 40 pages. The seal was signed in Lorraine's handwriting. Deliberate. Confident. Every curve exactly as I remembered it from birthday cards and Christmas checks. My phone buzzed. A text from Diane. "Who is at the door? Do not sign anything, Nora." I turned the phone face down and brought the folder inside. I sat at the kitchen table. The same table where the birthday cake had sat untouched the night before. And I ran my finger along the sealed flap and looked at her signature one more time before I broke it open. Inside was a stack of legal documents I recognized immediately from my work. A recorded deed. A trust instrument. A durable power of attorney. Notarized witness pages. A physician's letter on medical letterhead dated 14 months ago. And clipped to the very front. A handwritten note on Lorraine's personal stationery. Cream paper. Blue ink. That same careful, deliberate script. "Nora. When they come for the house, open this. Everything you need is here. I love you. I am sorry. It has to be you." I read those words 3 times. Each time the phrase "when they come for the house" landed harder than the time before. Not if. When. She had known. 14 months ago, before the forgetting had gotten bad, before the wandering, before the stove left on, before the day she got lost driving to the post office 2 blocks from her own home. She had known that someone would come for this house. And she had prepared for it with the same quiet precision she brought to everything else in her life. The following morning I found a lockbox clamped to the gas meter behind the hydrangea bushes. A realtor's combination lockbox, tucked just out of sight from the front walk. Somebody had been showing this house. I went inside and dug through the mail pile. 3 weeks of unsorted envelopes on the hallway table. And there it was. A listing sheet printed on Voss and Dean Realty letterhead. 4 bedrooms. 2.5 baths. Original hardwood floors. Listed at $680,000. $50,000 below the most recent comparable sale in the neighborhood. And in the kitchen junk drawer, I found the worst of it. A purchase agreement. Unsigned, but completely filled in. Buyer listed as Stonewall Capital Group LLC. Cash offer. 30-day close. And penciled into the seller's signature line in block letters like a rehearsal. L. Caldwell. The listing agent was Brenda Voss. The seller's representative listed on the agreement was Aaron Caldwell. My brother. I sat down on the kitchen floor and spread every page out around me like pieces of a puzzle I had never wanted to solve. That evening I called my mother. Oh, Nora. Her voice had that specific warmth she reserved for parish volunteers and restaurant hostesses. How is Gran doing? We had the most wonderful time in Aspen. The snow was just divine. There is a lockbox on her gas meter, I said. Silence. 2 seconds. 3. Sweetheart, that is being handled. Dad and Aaron have been working with a lovely agent to find a suitable transition plan for your grandmother. You know she cannot keep up this big house on her own. There is a purchase agreement in her kitchen drawer. Nora. The warmth dropped 1 full register. This is a family decision. We have been managing Gran's affairs for months. Aaron's company is going through a difficult stretch. The house can fund a proper care facility for Gran and help your brother through this rough patch. It is the responsible thing. It is her house, I said. Your grandmother has dementia, Diane said. She leaves the stove on. She got lost driving to the post office. She is not the person who should be making decisions about a $680,000 asset. Then she said it. Quietly. Firmly. Like it was already settled. She won't remember the house by Christmas. The line hummed between us. Then it's a good thing I remember, I said. And I hung up. I visited Ruth Adler's office the very next morning. Her firm was on the 2nd floor of a converted brownstone. Elder law and estate planning. The waiting room had faded oriental rugs and framed diplomas and a quiet that felt earned rather than performed. Ruth poured Earl Grey and placed a box of tissues exactly between us on the conference table without making a thing of it. Your grandmother came to me 14 months ago, she began. Early August of last year. She had gotten disoriented driving. Ended up 2 towns away. Could not remember how to get home. A neighbor brought her back. She called my office the very next morning. She was scared, I said. Yes. Ruth folded her hands. But she was also sharp. Focused. She sat in that chair and she said to me, my son will do whatever Diane tells him. And Diane will sell the house the minute I cannot stop her. She wanted to stop it before she lost the ability to stop it herself. Ruth walked me through every document piece by piece. Item 1. A revocable living trust. Lorraine had transferred the house, the deed, the title, everything, into the Lorraine E. Caldwell Revocable Living Trust dated August 9th of the previous year. She was the trustee while she had capacity. I was the successor trustee. If she became incapacitated, legal control of the house passed to me. Not my father. Not Aaron. Me. Item 2. A durable power of attorney naming me as Lorraine's agent for all financial and healthcare decisions. The durability clause meant it did not expire when she got sick. It activated. Item 3. A physician's letter from Dr. Helen Mercer, Lorraine's neurologist, confirming that on August 9th Lorraine had demonstrated full legal capacity. She understood exactly what she was signing and exactly what it meant. So the house is not hers to sell, I said. Correct. The house belongs to the trust. And the only person who can authorize a sale of trust property is the successor trustee. Ruth looked at me steadily over her reading glasses. That is you, Miss Caldwell. Then she leaned forward slightly. There is something else you should know. If your family has had your grandmother sign anything recently, a new power of attorney, a listing agreement, while she lacked the mental capacity to understand what she was doing, those documents may not be legally enforceable. That night I searched the bottom of the hallway credenza. I found it behind a stack of old magazines. A power of attorney dated September 3rd. Just 2 months earlier. Naming Gregory Caldwell as Lorraine's agent for all financial and property decisions. Stapled to it was a listing authorization granting Aaron the right to act as seller's representative. And a sticky note in Diane's handwriting. Closing target. November 15th. 3 weeks away. I laid the September documents beside the originals from Ruth's folder and the signature differences hit me immediately. The trust documents from 14 months ago. Strong pen pressure. Clean confident loops. Every letter connecting to the next. The long deliberate tail on the capital L. The September power of attorney. Trembling lines. The letters barely rising above the baseline. The pen lifting between strokes. Gaps where flow should have been. This was not the signature of a woman who understood what she was signing. This was the signature of a woman who had been told where to press down. I checked the date on my phone. September 3rd. The same week Lorraine had been taken to the emergency room after a fall. The discharge summary in the mail pile noted it clearly. Patient disoriented. Intermittent confusion. Recommend neurological follow-up. They had brought her a power of attorney during the same week she had been hospitalized for confusion. I took photographs of everything. Then I called Ruth. The closing was set for November 15th. 2 o'clock. Conference Room B, Capital Title Services on Main Street. I had 9 days. In those 9 days I filed a report with Adult Protective Services. I worked with Ruth to obtain Lorraine's current medical records using the original power of attorney that predated the September one. Dr. Mercer completed a current capacity evaluation confirming that Lorraine now lacked the cognitive ability to enter into legal agreements. And we learned that Linda Yates, the escrow officer at the title company, had already flagged the file 3 weeks earlier when she noticed the house was held in a trust. Brenda Voss had sent her a signed affidavit claiming the trust had been dissolved. That was a lie. The trust had never been dissolved. The recorded deed was public record. The closing was already standing on cracked ice. Aaron came to the house on Wednesday. He walked in without knocking. He helped himself to a drink from the refrigerator like he owned the place and leaned against the counter. Look, I know it seems fast, he said. But the company is in a rough patch. I have a balloon payment coming due in 8 weeks. $740,000. If I miss it, the bank takes everything. 3 years of work gone. So you are selling Gran's house to save your business. I am helping this family manage an asset Gran cannot manage herself. The money solves everything. Gran gets a nice facility. Dad and Mom stop worrying. I keep the company. Everybody wins. Except Gran. Aaron's jaw tightened. He stepped closer. Don't make this difficult. It is basically already sold. The closing is set. He left his empty can on the counter and walked out without looking back. The night before the closing I sat with Lorraine in the living room. She was working on a crossword puzzle in pen. No pencil, she always said. Pencils are for people who don't trust themselves. Gran, tomorrow is a big day. She did not look up. 7 across. Legal instrument of protection. 5 letters. I smiled. Trust. She wrote it in carefully. Then she set the puzzle down and reached into her cardigan pocket. She pulled out a folded piece of paper and handed it to me without a word. It was a note in her handwriting. Shaky, but deliberate. Recent. For Nora. The keeper of the table. And below it her signature. Not the strong signature from 14 months ago. Not the collapsed signature from September. Something in between. Trembling but intentional. Written by a woman who knew she was fading and wanted to leave one more mark while she still could. I am not gone yet, she said quietly. I folded the note and put it in my wallet. In the morning the folder, the note, and I went to the closing together. Capital Title Services. Brass door handle polished to a mirror. Conference room B, 10 chairs around an oval table. Linda Yates arranging document stacks at the head of the room. She looked up when Ruth and I walked in and paused for just half a second when she saw Ruth's name on the business card. I didn't see your firm listed on the transaction, she said. I represent the Lorraine Caldwell Revocable Living Trust, Ruth said evenly. We have documents relevant to this closing. Linda Yates's pen stopped moving. The door opened behind us. Diane came in first. Cashmere blazer. Church pearls. Smile already in position. Aaron followed in a tailored sport coat, jaw set, leather portfolio under his arm. Gregory trailed them both, gray-faced, staring at the floor. Then Brenda Voss with her closing documents fanned like a winning hand of cards. And last, Daniel Foss, the buyer's representative, in a navy suit with a no-nonsense expression. Diane saw me and stopped walking. Nora. She looked at Ruth. She looked at the folder in my hands. Her smile did not disappear all at once. It went in stages. Like a building losing its floors one at a time. What are you doing here? Taking a seat, I said. I sat down at the table. Ruth sat beside me. I placed the manila folder in front of me and I waited. The room went very quiet. Even the printer had stopped humming. Ruth opened her briefcase and laid 3 documents on the table one at a time. Centered. Square. Deliberate. First, a certified copy of the recorded trust deed. This deed was filed with the Briarwood Town Clerk on August 12th of last year. It transfers the property at 14 Oakwood Lane into the Lorraine Caldwell Revocable Living Trust. Miss Caldwell is the successor trustee. Diane's smile fell another floor. Second, the durable power of attorney naming me as Lorraine's agent. Executed August 9th. Notarized. Witnessed. Currently in full effect. Aaron leaned forward. We have a more recent power of attorney that supersedes that. Third, Ruth placed the physician's letter on the table. A capacity evaluation by Dr. Helen Mercer dated August 9th confirming full legal capacity at the time of signing. And a current evaluation completed last week confirming that Lorraine now lacks capacity, which means any documents signed after her cognitive decline began, including the power of attorney your family obtained in September, were signed without the legal competence required to make them binding. The room went absolutely still. Linda Yates picked up the trust deed. She read it. She compared it to her title report. She looked at Brenda Voss. Ms. Voss, you told me this trust had been dissolved. Brenda's face went white. I was told. The trust was never dissolved, Ruth said. The recorded deed confirms it. This property belongs to the trust. The sale cannot proceed. Linda Yates set the documents down. She squared her shoulders. And she said 5 words that ended everything. I cannot close this transaction. Daniel Foss closed his portfolio without a word and stood up. Brenda Voss was already gathering her things and avoiding everyone's eyes. Aaron gripped the armrests of his chair until his knuckles went white. Then he stood. His voice was raw. Not theatrical like Diane's. Raw. Real. I have a $740,000 payment due in 6 weeks. If this falls through I lose everything. Mr. Caldwell, Linda Yates said quietly, your financial obligations are not this office's concern. Diane was crying now. Loud and messy. After everything. Everything I have done for this family. Aaron turned to me. You are going to destroy us. You know that. You are going to destroy this entire family. I looked at him. I kept my voice exactly the way I had practiced it. Calm. Conversational. Steady. You tried to sell a 7 to 9-year-old woman's home while she sat alone on her birthday eating cake that nobody came to cut. You had her sign documents during a hospital stay when she did not know what day it was. You lied to the title company about a dissolved trust. And you are telling me that I am the one destroying this family. Aaron's mouth opened. Then closed. His fists unclenched slowly at his sides. Ruth spoke into the silence. For the record, an Adult Protective Services investigation into the financial exploitation of Lorraine Caldwell is currently active. The September power of attorney will be formally challenged. Any further attempts to sell, transfer, or encumber trust property without the trustee's authorization will be treated as a legal matter. Diane stopped crying. She looked at me with something underneath the tears that was harder than grief. You will regret this, she said. When Aaron loses his company. When your father has nowhere to turn. When this family falls apart. You will remember that you are the one who did this. I stood up. I picked up the manila folder and put it in my bag. I looked at Diane one final time. You do not get to decide what she is worth, I said. Then I turned to Linda Yates, thanked her, and walked out of conference room B. Ruth followed. Nathan held the door. The November air hit my face cold and clean, and I stood on the sidewalk for 10 full seconds before I remembered how to breathe. I drove back to Oakwood Lane with the folder on the passenger seat. The same seat where the gas station bouquet had sat 9 days earlier. The house was still there. The hydrangeas still lined the front walk. The porch light was on the way it always was. I went inside and found Lorraine asleep in her recliner. Crossword puzzle in her lap. Reading glasses folded on the armrest. I knelt beside her chair and pulled the quilt up around her shoulders. It is done, Gran. The house is safe. She stirred. Her hand found mine. That same thin grip. That same paper towel roll wrist. Her eyes opened. Cloudy at first. Then clearing for just a moment the way a window clears after the fog lifts. Nora. Did you keep the table? I laughed. A real one. The kind that rises from somewhere deep and surprises you completely. I kept the table, Gran. She smiled. Small. Certain. Satisfied. Good girl. She closed her eyes and was asleep within a minute. The crossword puzzle rose and fell gently on her chest. I sat on the floor beside her recliner and looked through the doorway at the kitchen. At the maple table scratched from 50 years of Thanksgivings. Still standing exactly where it had stood since 1974. In the months that followed, the probate court formally voided the September power of attorney. The court confirmed my role as Lorraine's legal guardian and permanent trustee of her trust. Aaron's balloon payment came due 8 weeks later and he missed it. The bank initiated foreclosure on his development projects. Aaron Caldwell Properties filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in January. He sold the German sedan. The last I heard, he was working as a project manager at someone else's firm, making a fraction of what he once earned. Diane's reputation in Briarwood eroded slowly, the way reputations do in small towns. The story leaked. People talked. Aunt June talked. She stopped attending the library board. She and my father moved to a condo in West Hartford in the spring. My father sent me one email in March. 3 sentences. I should have done more. I know that now. I am sorry. I read it twice. I did not respond. Some apologies arrived too late to be anything but a record of what a person knows they should have said years earlier. I deferred my bar exam. I took a leave of absence from the firm. I moved into the guest room at 14, Oakwood Lane. The one with the ceiling crack I had traced since I was 6 years old. And I became the person who made sure Lorraine Caldwell ate dinner every evening. Took her medication every morning. Sat on the porch in the afternoon when the light came golden through the hydrangeas. It was not the career step I had planned. It was the right one. On a Tuesday in April I baked a cake. Vanilla with buttercream. Nothing fancy. I set it on the kitchen table. The table from Bridgeport. The one that had survived 50 years of Thanksgivings and 1 attempted theft. Lorraine came in from the living room with her crossword puzzle under her arm. Whose birthday? She asked. Nobody's. It is Tuesday. We are having cake because it is Tuesday. She sat down. She took a bite and closed her eyes for a moment. This is my recipe, she said. It is. She took another bite. Don't change it. We ate in the kitchen with afternoon light coming through the window. The prism above the sink threw small rainbows across the floor the way it always had. The table held. The house held. And for the first time in 9 days, the counting stopped. A person's worth does not expire when their memory begins to fade. And sometimes the quietest love in a family is the only one that was ever truly keeping watch. That is my story. 1 empty birthday table. 1 manila folder. And a grandmother who remembered everything, long before anyone else realized the clock was running. If this story reminded you to check on someone you love today, please do it. Right now. Do not wait. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below and tell me what part stayed with you. Subscribe so you are here for the next one. And thank you, genuinely, for watching all the way to the end.